Markets corrected because there was initially market was expecting far too much out of the budget announcements, which probably from the looks of it was not there. So market corrected and market got literally overbought at that stage. But once you go through the details and day for yesterday's RBI's move, etc., actually points out is something what is in store for over a longer period of time, and the repercussions of it or the benefits, impact of these things, how it will have in the market and on the corporates. Once people start taking note of it, then markets will start giving you a positive flavor. That's number one. Number two, let's even look at some of these factors. What is it which is going to do for it? If we believe that the economy will grow and all the business confidence data that comes out is extremely positive, this business confidence data is what is actually going to lead to a large capital investment which will happen over going forward. And should that continue to happen, you have clearly an economic growth which will be there, which is going to be higher than what it was before, and that growth is what is going to lead you to an earnings growth. So I think it's a positive way of things, and I don't think that this is a short-term move, but the way the markets have moved over the last, say, 4 months, 5 months, tells us that probably the kind of pace at which it grew in the last 4 or 5 months, you may not see that kind of a pace of growth in the near term. Market will take a breather. Market will take actually look at the things, how it pans out, and then start to move. Let's also look into the fact that earlier expectations were that probably FY15 you will have a much stronger economic growth and consequently an earnings growth. Sure. Today, because the budget itself has come at this level, and the kind of a growth that you expect in FY15 probably will be seen more from end of Q3 to beginning of Q4 of FY15. So it's going to be back-ended, and the stronger growth has to come in FY16 and 17.
All right, Sri, just hold that thought. I'm going to discuss a couple of the other aspects as well, but I want to quickly mention the pre-open and what we're actually picking up in terms of cues right now. You've got a marginal downtick there, 4 to 5 points down in the Sensex. The Nifty is down by nearly, 19 odd points is what we're seeing right now. The currency is at hovering around 60.15, so it's been pretty muted in terms of the currency cues. Anu's been tracking that a little more closely. Anu, what's it looking like in terms of the rupee outlook?
Priyank, just like we said this morning, we're into a zone of data-less cues, and that's exactly what the currency is reflecting right now. Completely muted in trade. All the high-frequency data is behind us, and now only the policy on August 5th will draw any eyeballs towards the rupee market and month-end demand as well, as it starts to pick up probably by the 22nd of this month. Let's connect with Partha Bhattacharya, a veteran of the industry, will give us a bit of an insight on what's happening behind the scenes. Partha, what are you looking at in terms of the rupee range now? With the commentary that we've heard from the Fed and the FI info numbers that we've been getting haven't been that exciting. Do you think we're likely to head back towards the 60-40 level rather than the 59-80?
Yeah, the range will guide like that, 59-80 to 60-40 maybe. But as you correctly said, that it has not only not been exciting, it has become pretty boring of late in the currency market. 3-month implied vol has come down to 7.3% or so, at a 3-year low. And let's look at the factors. I mean, internationally, there's one thing positive, very positive, but forward-looking thing is development of the creation of this new development bank, or the BRICS bank that we call it. If you look at in the context of what happened around this time last year, it's a huge positive development. Market seems to have forgotten what we have been grappling with around the same time last year. So we need to be careful about the potential volatility coming into the market, coming from across the border. But of course, with Janet Yellen's statement is being interpreted by the market that U.S. monetary policy can tighten faster than expected earlier. So that would also somewhat be positive. On the domestic front, as you have seen in the trade deficit number yesterday, has widened. Although exports have grown substantially, real concern is that gold import has sharply jumped up. And despite Government of India not reducing the import duty as yet, which may happen going forward. So that's a concern. So CAD may widen, the oil demands, etc. will remain. There will be unhedged exposure of external commercial borrowing. There's a huge unhedged exposure and additional provisioning requirement by RBI on the banks. I think banks will run after the corporates to hedge these earnings exposure. So there will be demand coming in, plus RBI will keep coming in and buying dollars to shore up their reserve to increase import coverage number in terms of months of import coverage. So I don't see rupee appreciating in a big way or RBI allowing rupee to appreciate in a big way. Although FII flows, as you correctly said, has not been exciting, but I expect FII flows to continue to grow.
Right. All right, Partha, thanks for that. The word's quite clear on the street, Priyank. Three-month implied volatility, as Partha was mentioning, is down significantly, which is making the rupee market a little quiet. I won't say boring, because I think that's exactly where the RBI would like it, to give a bit of sense of comfort to investors as well.
All right, fair enough, Anu. Thanks for getting us those updates there. But well, we've been in conversation with Sri Shankar, Head of Institutional Equities at Prabhudas Lilladher over the last few minutes to get a sense of this market. And talking about the outlook itself, Sri, there have been a couple of the earnings that are lined up today. We're awaiting numbers as far as TCS and Bajaj Auto are concerned. Any thoughts in terms of these pockets of the market as far as earnings are concerned? How do you expect that to play out? And if you got any specific thoughts on Bajaj Auto and TCS?
No, let's not get into the specific earnings for the quarter, etc. I don't think this particular quarter earnings is going to determine anything about what is in store for FY15 or FY16 to a great extent. Because this, the automobile numbers for Bajaj Auto has not been very great. In fact, for the entire automobile pack, Bajaj Auto has been actually seeing losses in market share. So it's going to remain a little under pressure. And TCS, taking a cue from what has been in store and in the kind of growth that has been seen, should come out with stronger numbers and stronger guidance. And that's what the perception is. At the end of the day, what is going to be crucial for a lot of these companies is going to be what is the outlook that they are going to give for the entire sector that they have and the companies themselves going forward.
All right, fair enough. So that's probably going to be the focus this quarter as well. But in terms of sectors here, we've seen that huge rally in the last few days on the back of the commentary that we picked up for infrastructure, both from the finance minister and the RBI as well. Sri, how have you been reading it? Because IDFC has been one counter that's had a huge rally. We've seen a couple of the banking names as well. Axis, ICICI, all of them have seen some bit of excitement yesterday. And fair enough, you might see a little bit of a cool-off today. But purely in terms of developments, Sri, what did you make of it? And what could this actually mean for the sector?
Okay. Let's break this question into different parts. And I probably need to answer this in a couple of parts. Point number one, in general, what is that RBI move going to give it to the entire financial services sector, be it the infrastructure development finance companies like IDFC or housing loan finance companies, or for that matter, for the banks per se. What it actually gives you is, if you are a bank earlier, if you were lending it for infrastructure projects, for the liabilities that you used to create, you used to still pay CRR and SLR, and that used to block your funds to that extent. And apart from paying, keeping it in CRR and SLR, you also had to maintain for priority sector lending, that 40%, etc. Now, you don't incrementally on that amount, you don't have to pay for or earmark CRR and SLR on it. That's a regulatory requirement is not there. And on the other side, you are also removed from a priority sector lending. You know, the priority sector lending, especially under segment, etc., which is below what you lend to a retail and below what you lend to a normal corporate customer, normal customer, etc. So your spreads, the cost should actually reduce, because in CRR you don't earn anything, and an SLR, depending upon what is a yield on your book, that's what you get. And at the end of the day, the benefit will come to an extent of in terms of 40 basis points in terms of the cost for banks on one side. On the lending side, if I remove that 40% for priority sector, if I assume that probably I lend at an average 13 as against 10 for PSL, etc. So probably I may get a benefit of around 1% plus, the 100 say around 1 to 1.2% or whatever it is. Now, how much is of this benefit that these lending or these institutions have will be passed on to the consumer is going to be wait and see. And again, these are all top of the line numbers.
Okay.
You need to minutely go with each one of these financial institutions for it. That's for the banks in general. What will happen to somebody like an IDFC? Now, if our understanding is correct,
right.
IDFC, etc., because when it becomes a bank, new bank, they don't have 70% of they have 70% of their funding in terms of project loans, and these project loans will straight away get into that infrastructure benefit. So they need not maintain the CRR and SLR. What implication it will have? It will probably gain by around 200 basis points to their ROE from what was it anticipated earlier. 3, most important. Right. Now, earlier we never used to have
I just need to interrupt. We're running really low on time right now. But just a quick call in terms of IDFC, buy or sell right now. What kind of reading do you actually have on the counter?
It's longer term. It's like looking good.
All right, fair enough, Sridhar. We leave it there. Thanks so much for joining in today and getting us that perspective in terms of the market outlook. But well, moving on then, here's one of the world's most respected economists, someone who Prime Minister Narendra Modi listens to as well. Dr. Arvind Pangaria of Columbia University believes that holding back India's growth is its inflexible labor laws, and fixing that, he says, would help India grow between 10 to 11%. Today we begin our exclusive